Peace and blessings, family. This is your boy Gerald. It is Thursday, the 27th of July, 2017. How is everybody doing? You almost finished with your work week, and I hope that you're well. I hope you're well because you should be sidestepping the negative. You should be grounding your feet and, of course, placing God first in everything that you do, because that is required to have the life intended. I know many of you right now, this summer has been an eye-opener. Many of you, this has been about validation. And for some, it has been a period of pure frustration. But see, I've come to understand something, family, because where you're headed, there is a process. And for that process to take place, there must first be application. But before you can have application put in place, you've got to be real with you. You've got to allow yourself to be yourself. Because until you decide to be yourself, you won't know what it feels like to claim you. How about love you? There are millions and millions and millions of people that wage war on themselves. They don't feel comfortable with the person that is looking back in the mirror, when in actuality, that is the person that they owe everything to. That person is the image, the illustration of what legacy stands for. Who am I talking to? But you got to understand that, and I can't stress this, there must be concessions made. Not with your environment, not with the people you know, with the person that matters most, you. And not everybody's going to be able to do it. Yes, they talk a good game. They even have good illustrations of what they stand for, but just give it time. All things hidden will be made revealed. All things you did not know will be presented, because it's not time released, it's blessed. And you, being a spiritual being first, the moment that you took your first breath, that spiritual seal was placed over your life. So guess what? It is entitled to you. So the real question that should be asked is, do you know who you are? Because until you can answer that truthfully, the things that you lack, the things that you need, the things that truly define who you are will not be within your grasp. But see, this is a very spiritual time, family. I know you got people that want to convince you that what you're doing is not in your best interest. I know that. And I also know those same people are terrified in the person you are evolving to. But they won't tell you that. No, because they are too busy filling the seats, the cheap seats. Because see, everybody's got opinions of what you need to do. But what matters is what you need to do. So why are you entertaining it? Why are you allowing the distraction to rob you of your opportunity. See, somebody's frustrated right now because I done called you out. That's what opportunists do. See, opportunists don't need your help to expose themselves, but what's required is that you have the courage to identify what is being shown. Who am I talking to? Sure, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but can they stand on it? See, usually when truth is being required, you're going to see two things. You're going to see validation, or you're going to see a whole lot of division. Oh, yeah, that's why you can't find them right now. They didn't just fall off the face of the earth. They're avoiding you because the person that you are becoming, the real you, they see their insecurities of what is required to have access to your life. So it does contradict what they stand for. But the real question should be asked is this: do they have a relationship with God? Because if they don't have a relationship with God, they don't have a relationship with themselves. So everything that they're talking about, everything that they're trying to illustrate is nothing but an illusion, hoping that you cannot see the fragments and the cracks. That's why you must ground your feet. That's why you need to go within. Because when you really think about it, family, it is about validation. And the one thing I've noticed about validation, it's spiritual. So are you. So why are you waging a war against yourself? Why are you putting yourself at risk just to fit in? Why are you allowing yourself to accept what is not needed just to sustain a want? You do know, let me throw this out there to somebody. Your blessings are not time released. They're earned. And that is why you hear people through the legacies, they always say the same thing. God is never there when you want him, but he's always there when you need him. Why? Because you're his child. But the problem is the non-believer, they still have the same entitlement as the believer. But what divides the two is free will. Shall I go left? Shall I go right? So when you take that into consideration, you will start to notice a pattern. All that is put in a show or masquerade, you do understand real recognizes real. You do understand that, right? Because it's blessed. That is why you also may see something that is deemed bitter sweet. Truth. Truth cuts both ways, just like a bee sting. Yes, a bee sting hurts when you get stung, but it hurts even more when you pull it out. And maybe right now, you're not feeling too well right now because the reality, like dominoes, is constantly falling. Why? That's your clarity. That's your validation. But here's something that's more profound. You do understand every blessing that is entitled to you because the moment that you took your first breath, they still exist. It just depends on when you are able to accept the insight which will become your wisdom. Who am I talking to? That is why it is so evident and maybe apparent to somebody that where you're headed, they can't go. And I understand if this was a perfect world, we would take everybody that we had a significant connection to. We would even afford them the opportunity for our rewards. But you come to understand that the moment that you try to do that, it always implodes. It always, there's some type of sabotage all the time. You already know where that's from, right? That's the devil. You still don't believe the devil doesn't exist? As much as we have a multitude of millions of people that give honor to him, they try to booster him up to God, but guess what? His arms ain't big enough, ain't long enough. Because the truth of the matter is, God created him. He was the first creation. He was made perfect. But it was his ego and pride that got him cast out. You might be that person right now that you feel that your life has been turned upside down. And the things that you wish to accomplish are delayed. Let me tell you something. Because I know that your associations, your friends ain't your friends. Ain't your friends. They're not. Because if they were your friends, wouldn't they be the exact example of what inspires you? Like-minded attracts like-minded. Don't get it twisted. I know there's a lot of people that want to convince you the opposites attract, right? I felt the same way. But I started seeing a lot of inconsistencies. I started to see a lot of false truths. I saw a lot of denial, and I saw a whole lot of people running. And I couldn't understand. But what I did realize was all these people, I had gave permission to have access and influence to me. Now, for some of y'all, that might piss you off because the clarity is there now. But just know this. Today is a blessed day. And you can't run from who you really are. And just if it was meant, you would be where you last was. But you ain't there now, aren't you? So there's the contradiction because a lot of us want to look back down memory lane because we didn't bettered ourselves. Maybe our finances are more solid or opportunity has presented itself and you think that, well, now that I've got myself to this position, I can stretch out my arm and bring you up. That's what opportunists wait for. Whatever the attraction was, whatever the bait was, because bait can be anything. It can be anything from a material object to that precious flesh. That's why you see it all the time. You see the weariness right here. You see it. You thinking they didn't get a good night's sleep or something's going on presently that's got them that way. No, no, no. That's torment. That also could mean that that soul tie that you had with that person, them chains are falling from your feet. Now, granted, I will say this. If it's divinely meant, you will see them again. They would have also grown. They also would have taken accountability for the placement of their lives in yours. And you would feel that synergy in your spirit. But unfortunately, there will be people that we will have come to know that the real reason they're there is to show you by example of what you really need. How many tears you going to let fall before you realize that you deserve to love yourself more? How much money you going to let fall out of your purse or your wallet before you realize that the person that you breaking bread with is really the manifestation in physical form to teach you not to do that? Or why are you going to allow an environment to rob you or hold your dreams and aspirations hostage? It was all good yesterday before they walked into your life, but you're going through straight hell now while they're there. I feel your energy and I'm praying for you. Now, I was trying to put another video out earlier, but I realized that it wasn't time because I just had an experience here, here. And within the next 40 days, 45 days, what you see behind you is going to change. It'll be different. But I'm a firm believer that God places people into your life for a direct reason. Therefore, that means you must dig deep as well as tap into your discernment. You do know what your discernment is, right? Some of the world want to call it integrity. Those same people are the same people that don't want to give acknowledgement of the Most High. So they water it down. But in actuality, you can't water down God. That's why I like to say sometimes I believe God is the ultimate comedian too, because to put up with our foolishness, how about our denial? He's got to have a way to see some light in the end of the tunnel. But guess what? He created you, right? But guess what? The work is not done. It doesn't matter if you pack up today and move to Botswana tomorrow. The work still has to be done. And you find this occurring all the time when people transition. They think that, well, if I pack up and I start a new identity somewhere else, I can focus on me. But what they don't realize is they just put a pause in their blessing. Because until you have acknowledged what is being presented and you conquer it, it'll be there waiting on you. It'll be waiting on you. Maybe this is the moment that you finally listen to your voice for the very first time. See, you see that play out, but it's being perverted right now because you got a lot of these little girls and grown men, grown women's bodies, and they're using their anger to project, thinking that being in a position of fear basing or fear mongering, that they'll finally be heard. You know what I'm talking about, ladies. You think that if you raise your octave, they take you serious, but in actuality, when you raise your octave, they shut down. See, they valued the substance of what the content was that came from those precious lips of yours. You wouldn't have to raise your voice. All you would have to do is just make your presence felt. That is why grace is the most beautiful thing that you can witness from a person. See, some will look at that as self-control, but really it isn't. That's an understatement. So let me turn the corner because I don't want to take up too much of your time. But I'm going to tell you this so when you see it, you say, well, Gerald said that. Said a lot. Just looked at my catalog. I'm talking to somebody. You know why I do this? Validation, validation by itself. You're supposed to have the life you need, not the life you want. So I'm trying to reach the intended heart and intended mind. But until you decide to look that little boy or little girl in that mirror that you see every day and say, you know what? I love you. I have not been right by you. You deserve to be respected, loved, and treasured. Until you can find comfort in saying that to yourself, your environment won't do it back. Look at the infinity sign. You know, I always wear that sign, right? Why do you think I always convey energy out as energy returned? Because if you want to be like the New Agers and talk about law of attraction, you can't have no attraction. You can't even have a doctrine if you don't have God in it. So all you're doing is playing. All you're doing is delaying. And we're only here for a borrowed period of time. Nobody's guaranteed they're going to wake up tomorrow, but your legacy will be right. But your legacy will be there after you gone. You know that little hash mark? That will be what is compartmentalized to represent your life. So life ain't over. We all make mistakes. But how you think your wisdom is acquired? When you're able to acknowledge what has taken place, you learn. So you can't turn around and say, I'm the victim, when 50% of it is choice. You don't like how she treats you? Then start treating you correctly. You don't like the fact that he puts his hands on you? Take your hands off of him. And usually when we hear about abusive situations, first of all, you can't argue by yourself, because if you argue by yourself, you're crazy. Just like insanity. Insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different outcome. So imagine how different your life would be if you acknowledged what rightfully is being revealed. You actually think fate is what it is. You actually think it just so happened? Nah. This meant that that's the next challenge that you must overcome, because your blessings on the other side. But if you go ahead and let your girlfriend tell you that. Go ahead and let your stick man tell you that. And guess what? They will end up robbing you of more time that you could ever give, because guess what? They like you the way you are. Who am I talking to? Why are you taking advice from somebody that's just as broken as you? That's why they're never around when you need them. But they're always there when they want you, don't they? Isn't that the truth? Come on now. Let's be honest. Let's look at pros and cons. If you don't believe me, let's go scientific. Take a sheet of paper. Take a sheet of paper. Put pro, con. Draw a line down there. Put a person and list their pros and cons. And whatever weighs the most, that's your insight. You can apply that to your situation. Like, here's something that I find very funny. Because everybody knows, y'all got one person where you work at that hate their job. They spend more effort trying to get out of their job than doing the job. But if they hated their job so much, what keeps them from clocking in? What keeps them from coming to work? What keeps them from distracting you? Because it is about give and take. So let's go back to what I was saying earlier before I lost train of thought in regards to your eyes. You do know your eyes are the window to your soul. You do know that, right? Why do you think it's just coincidentally you see everybody got them big old glasses and it's above the eye and below the eye? But they don't want you to see the truth. But they want to convince you that's a fashion statement. No, it's not. It's to keep you from reading what's going on within themselves. Mm-hmm. I had to learn that myself. I did. I did. But that's okay because you got a lot of blessings coming this summer. And for them to be manifested, you're going to have to make certain decisions. And one of those decisions is to be truthful to you and stop running from what you fear. You know, fear only has relevance until you decide to acknowledge. Think about it when you was afraid of the dark when you was a child. It was not until that moment that you decided to face that fear did you master it. Your money ain't right, then why don't you acknowledge how you're spending it? I'll do one better. How about the people that have access to it? Because you can't build a relationship with anybody until you have a relationship with yourself. Just as well as you can't build anything with anybody if they don't have a priority for themselves first. You have to value you. That's something that cannot be uh, given. But he loved me, Gerald. He loved me. Uh, love is exhibited from within. And if all you're getting is negativity, strife, distrust, and you might as well go ahead and throw mental and physical abuse on top of that, let me tell you something. You're not in a relationship. You're in a financial agreement because you don't even have a relationship with yourself. And here's the funny thing about it too. A lot of people, this is for the kings. You call yourself a big man because you strong arming your girl. You call yourself a big man. You think you're a dude. You think you're a dude. The only reason why you're pulling that stunt is because you know that she doesn't have a support system to check you. Yeah, you see that all the time. That's what control's all about. They like to get you to move away from your support system so they can do what they want to do. And this happens just as much with the ladies, which is a contradiction because a lady wouldn't carry herself that way. So real recognizes real, right? We are what we attract. But I understand a lot of this is because people will not admit to themselves that one of their most frightening fears is going through life by yourself. So you play a game of tag. You know, tag. Tag you it. You know, instead of you seeing your worth, you just tag your life onto someone else's life, and no matter where it's going, you just riding just like you're on a bus, hoping that that out of service sign don't come in, and you got to get off wherever it stops. But guess what? You'll come to understand the moment you got on is the same place you're gonna get off. Only thing different is time stolen. So don't do yourself that way. Don't do it. Now's the time for you to get real. And I'm gonna tell you what, your greatest challenge is gonna be your environment, because what's gonna be what's gonna be uh, called into question is the authenticity of your bonds. May it be work, financial, physical. So once again, until you decide to love yourself, stop playing the victim, saying it was their fault, because nobody can do to you what you don't want. None. You got that beautiful word called no. You know, no. No doesn't mean forever. No means under review. And unfortunately, you do have some people that feel that you will not figure it out. And when you start to remember that game, was it the hot game? It's like, you know, little clues, and you're getting warm, you're getting warmer, you're getting hot, you're burning up. Well, you got some people that play that game with the intent to burn you up, burn your life up like this piece of paper, just on to the next one. But see, they don't have enough integrity within themselves to stop something before they begin something else. So what ends up happening is you see a collected cycle of rebounding through life. Sure, you'll get a lot of trinkets and a lot of novelty stuff, but they won't matter to nothing when it comes to your self-respect. Especially when you meet someone that thinks just like you. Oh, you mean all I gotta do is buy you a piece of jewelry? You do something strange for some change? But I got it, because some of y'all deep down inside don't want to admit it, but you're waiting to physically and emotionally evolve to be someone's husband and someone's wife. That's the worst thing you could ever do if you ain't got your life in order first. Sure, anybody can have the honeymoon. Sure, everybody strives for a romance, but guess what? When you're in a good romance, they are the living example of your state of mind. Who am I talking to? I'm telling you the truth. And I know for some of y'all, you feel in a certain kind of way because you've been with them playing tag and they can't give you the same consideration. What's wrong with that picture? You hoping that if you give them one more day that they're going to magically change their position? They still have the same position they had the moment that they stepped into your life. You just wasn't aware of it. That's why I keep trying to tell you, Queen, your sexcapades behind closed doors will not keep a man. Doesn't matter what he brings to a table. And I understand, because we live in an environment of shallowness. A lot of y'all won't admit it, but you're booed up with him because you don't want to do the work. So you're marrying for security instead of love. And you wonder why your finances are doing this. Because it's not blessed. It's not. And I got it. Some of y'all may have this position where you say, well, you know what, Gerald? I was a habitual cheater. But this one right here, I'm going to do everything that I never did before. I'm going to make this one last forever. Only for you to have your heart broken. Only to feel dazed and confused. Where were those tricks then? Because the real trick was you were in denial the whole time. Fam, let me tell you something. I'm about to roll this out. You do understand that it requires you to put in that work. It comes from your heart. Everything that's found in your heart is measured by God. So it doesn't matter what goes on outside your door. That matters not. It don't. But if you're doing what's correct, your blessings will be endless. You'll see momentum. And where you started at, you will have validation because you'll notice you're not over there no more. Maybe those people don't come around anymore. Or better, opportunity after opportunity after opportunity is given. And like I said about your blessings have already been measured. But is your mind prepared? Because if it's divinely meant for you, you're going to see it again. It'll just, boom. It'll just slide into your life perfectly. But there will be a price. Because, see, the devil doesn't want you to become who you're destined to be. You know that first breath? Yeah. He can't afford that, so you're going to be tested. You're going to have a lot of strife. He's going to try to throw disappointments in front of you and setbacks in front of you. But keep in mind, the setbacks are nothing but an opportunity to review where you are, to make the corrective changes for your setup. Now, you surely don't believe you're on this planet just to eat, sleep, and reproduce, do you? Do you? Huh? Come on, King. Why do you think you got that last name? It's about protecting the legacy. And what you do not know or what you do not do will be the lessons that you will be faced. And if that does not work, unfortunately, it will be transcended to your children. So stop running from yourself and honor yourself by doing what's required. And trust when I tell you this, it'll be worth it. And oh, yeah, don't worry about the people in cheap seats. This is something that you're going to have to come to accept. They're going to watch you. They are going to watch. Don't worry about that. I'm a firm believer, if it was meant for them to know, they would be there actually in your life. So if they're not there, guess what? They did you a favor. So stop waiting. Why are you waiting on him? Until he's ready to claim himself, he will never claim you. Sure, anybody will gladly waste your time. Sure, sweet distractions happen all the time. But with every sweet distraction is always a price. And depending on how strong the spiritual connection is, you'll know it too. You'll know it. The finances will destabilize, or you'll just know your relationships, connection. You'll feel it. You'll see it. And until you're accountable for it, it intensifies. So you ain't crazy. You ain't crazy. You're just in denial. Now, why don't you turn around and do something best and enjoy the rest of this summer? Because you got a lot of blessings waiting for you. They're just waiting. They're just sitting like in a spiritual assembly line, just waiting for you to claim them. But that won't matter until you claim yourself first. I don't know. I think you're worth it. But I understand the people in the cheap seats, They like wasting your time. And time is money. So, you going to go back or you going to run back to where it counts more? And that's you. God's praying for you. You know I am. I see your worth. And for that, it helps me discern mine. You know, there are people that want to, they have nothing else better to do but to play with your life, but there's a price that comes with it in the intended time and moment. And unfortunately, I don't wish bad on nobody, but that also becomes a validation for you too, because no matter where you are, I don't care if you're in Botswana, the news will find you. It will. It just does. No, it doesn't. God doesn't, because God makes a way when there isn't. Be blessed.